I'm so pleased to today attend this Fintech's great meeting. They give me a topic that is the Chinese Fintech regulation. I hope that maybe I, from a wider perspective, provide some information about the financial technologies development. I think the main point I have to deliver to you is the co-construction of new normality of the Fintech. I think the ecology of Fintech include financial technology company and some financial institutions, regulatory, consumers, the media, self-discipline organization, all the aspects, subjects together constructing the Fintech's ecology. A good interactive financial ecology is helpful for the Fintech industry is sustainable and healthy development. We know that China at present in the Fintech aspect in global, we are rather leading position. So this is why today such a great meeting has included so many people from the Fintech circle, not only from China but also from the globe. This has proved that China's Fintech development charming its potential of development. How can we promote China's financial technology industry's sustainable healthy development? I think that the financial ecology, as I mentioned, that in this ecology, all the subjects must have those kind of good interactive relationship. Then we can promote the Fintech industry in the risk-controlled precondition realize its sustainable development. We can see that China Fintech development is very fast, but we should avoid some imbalance. In the fast development, we should avoid some imbalance. I think the first thing is that those Fintech companies develop those imbalance between the Fintech companies, because the new regulatory supervisory framework and the fully competitive market environment is still in the process of development. Maybe we are lack of those kind of measures which really provide financial service enough incentive, this kind of mechanism. So this will have an impact on sustainable development on the Fintech companies. I think the second challenge is the user distribution and data distribution and the data use imbalance. We can see some of those financial technology companies, some giants, using their very abundant product lines, gathered a lot of financial data. And the big data is mainly distributed in this kind of big giants in the Fintech industry. So objectively, there would be some kind of monopoly, oligopoly situation. This kind of data monopoly is even more difficult to be break from financial monopoly. You can create those issues, for example, digital gap and those information isolated island. You know that the financial scientific this formation of the isolated island is not good for full use of the data. It's not good for the good ecology. The third is that those imbalance between the Fintech company and the financial institutions. You know that the Fintech company and the financial institutions are facing some of those kind of ambiguous competition, because the commercial bank is restricted by the Article 43 of the commercial bank law. It cannot hold the share of the technology company. But on the contrary, our technology company can get those licenses for the finance, so they can operate in the other sector. So this causes some kind of imbalance between the financial institution and the Fintech company.
Fourthly is the imbalance between Fintech and the RegTech. In advanced economies, we have seen fast development of RegTech. The background is the hefty fines under the rigorous regulation. In order to comply with the regulations, so it has introduced some high technology such as RegTech. But in China, our government is mainly encourages the development of its own development of this kind of industry. So the driving force of RegTech is insufficient. So facing with this growing number of businesses, we have seen high regulatory costs. In the past, it was mainly labor costs, but now it's input costs, capital costs, which is increasing exponentially. If we cannot catch up, then there is imbalance between these two. And the fifth is the imbalance between fintech development and the consumer protection. So in its growth, we have seen that some fintech companies have weak risk control, and in particular, we have insufficient regulatory systems. So it might trigger some consumers that are not well protected. So it might influence the stability of the financial market, and at last it might affect the whole environment of fintech industry. What is a good ecosystem for fintech? I think it refers to the major entities in the industry, such as the financial industries, the consumers, the financial institutions, the self-disciplinary associations. They can collaborate together and they can interact with each other so as to serve the real economy and prevent the risks. So protect the consumer rights at best. In this way, we can improve the China's international competitiveness. I think the new ecosystem should include many aspects. Firstly, we need to have a more orderly competition among the financial institutions. So this is kind of a bedrock for the sound development of the market. So under this kind of fair competitive market or level playing field, then we will not harm the consumers and have a sound development of the fintech industry. While promoting the good companies, we need also to prevent them monopolize the whole industries, to become oligopolies or to set up information single island. And we need also to have kind of integration between the financial institutions and fintech companies. They need to complement with each other and to reach win-win results. Of course, they need to compete, but it is not solely competition. I think it is more relying on competition. As Mr. Hu Xi from Ant pointed out, now there's a kind of consensus that between these two, we can actually collaborate and reach win-win results. So, for example, the fintech companies can provide technological services to those financial institutions. We can use these kind of new technologies to better improve the procedures of the traditional companies. And also we can cover expand new businesses which are not covered by the traditional businesses. So this is kind of a division of businesses. And also the fintech industry can also help the regulatory institutions. For example, we have these kind of new technologies, right, like RegTech in AI. So it might be a way to avoid regulation. So some fintech may get some gains from the arbitrage of regulation. So it is important to have efficient regulations to improve the long-term benefits. I think our long-term benefits are aligned with each other, so we need to have a benign cycle. So in this way, we need to expand some new ways to have sustainable development by using these kind of new technologies. As for the financial technological development, it needs to go back to the origin, which is financial service given to the real economy. So this is one of the attributes of its as finance. And how can we build a new ecosystem? of course, we need to have good legislative framework. As for fintech alone, we currently don't have a complete, separate legislative system for it solely. So it is imperative for us to establish a complete legislative system for this industry, so as to set up some rules, and this is kind of a basis for the regulatory authorities to conduct regulation, and also our new industry can have a kind of foundation of the laws, but at the same time we need to have high level of law enforcement. So our participants together need to collaborate well into this kind of law enforcement. As for our fintech industry, it is externally related, because with this kind of regulation, we have seen the high cost of regulatory compliance, so which is evidenced by RegTech. So who should bear the cost? Should the taxpayers bear the cost? So should other institutions bear this kind of cost of developing RegTech so as to build a kind of a fair, competitive industry? I think it might be suitable to make these kind of costs more internalized. Of course, there are many ways to do it. For example, when you establish in some new systems, actually you can help these regulatory authorities to establish regulatory systems. Actually, we have seen some fintech companies that they have done some kind of experiments in this regard. Of course, the regulations should be determined by the government so as to avoid moral risks, and they can also invite some independent third party to do the assessment. And the third party can establish some systems, and the cost of which can be partly borne by the financial fintech industries. As for the government, and we need to have these kind of standards. With these kind of standards, we can standardize the entry and the exiting of the market so as to create a level playing field. So considering the disparities of different countries, I think China should step up to establish the technological standards in order to improve the global fintech industry. For regulatory authorities in the financial data standardization, we need to show the responsibilities and avoid the digital gap or information island so as to protect the completeness of data. And we need to align these data and also make the cross-sector collaboration. As for government and the fintech industry, we need to protect our consumers. On one side, we need to focus on this issue and also the importance of secure data and complete data. Last year, the G20 summit in Hangzhou has passed the digital financial inclusive principles, which have put forward that we need to protect our consumers, and we need to have measures to protect the data. As for the finance ministers' communique, it also has pointed out that we should not use these kind of threatening internet weapons to threaten the completeness or completion of the data. For consumer protection, the government should pay attention to it, and on the other side, the fintech industry should also pay attention to it. It should be the key issue for the fintech companies to pay attention to the consumer protection, so as to provide some secure, transparent products that are in line with the regulations and disclose information to the consumers to avoid fraudulent activities. And they also have to pay attention to the security of their privacy, the data. And for the intermediaries, they should provide professional services, such as all third parties, these kind of auditing firms, accounting firms. They can enforce these laws and create a good environment for fintech industries from their professional perspectives. And for the associations, they are kind of self-disciplined associations, and they need to work together with the regulatory authorities to standardize these industries, to better discipline these industries, and promote the research and study of the businesses, the establishment of the rules, and also provide a kind of opportunities for exchange and for promoting the businesses. So I think the disciplinary associations can also explore new ways to improve their own association and also to help this industry. So in from these different aspects, we can make all these entities to go into a benign cycle and to make concerted efforts to support the whole industry in China and also in the globe, so as to make it more stable and more sound. Thank you.